see and monitors all the network traffic you have in your network, from IP level to DCE RPC calls. So there are two most popular free IDS systems, Snort and Suricata, and there are free and paid rule set for both of them, big rule sets. So among signature developers, there are such names as Cisco Talos, Emerging Threads, many communities and other groups who develop signatures for malware and exploitation detection. So for now, the largest rule set has more than 20,000 active signatures inside. So it is possible to highlight a few logical stages for how an IDS works. So first, incoming network traffic is being reassembled into TCP or UDP streams. Then protocol parsers do their job, parsing protocols, protocol fields, and analyzing them if needed. Then signatures do their job by checking protocol packets, protocol streams, and writing alerts into log files if a match was found. So almost each stage has some known bypass vectors which allow IDS bypassing. So on stream reassembling stage, we can confuse some systems via unusual IP or TCP or even high-level protocol packet fragmentation. Or maybe with help of where TTL or NQ numbers. So TCP overlap is another widely known technique when an attacker creates an ambiguity of overlapping TCP number interpretation. Also, a fake TCP fin packet may be employed for this confusion. Next, many of that normalization tricks can be applied for both WAF and IDS systems. So there are such things as double HTTP encoding, double headers, double bodies, and so on. Also IDS systems we are talking about may not support some protocols or encodings like quoted printable one that we can see in POP3 IMIP email protocols. Besides that, some IDS-specific flaws you can find in a vendor bug tracker, and the same applies to the third-party libraries that an IDS use. So one day, our team found a flaw in Suricata which an attacker can leverage in order to hide his attacks from an IDS. This especially works for bad tunnel attack or any other similar one. So in this bad tunnel attack, in this attack, a vulnerable client sends NB-stat queries to an external attacker server by opening an HTML page, for instance. And then, if an attacker answers with ICMP destination unreachable packet to the first packet from my client, then IDS system applies only ICMP signatures that works only with ICMP protocol packets. And of course, there could not be any signature to detect this attack on ICMP level because it runs over UDP transport. And that's why this attack was undetected. So this flaw was found in the last year, and it was fixed as soon as we submitted it. So all these tricks are pretty well known and should be fixed in popular major IDS systems. So now I'm going to talk about signature-based bypasses. So how do signatures make for flows? Signatures are just an expert knowledge shaped into a language that IDS understands and fits to IDS capabilities. So, the main problem of those who develop signatures is they are limited in time and resources, and usually they have no time to study vulnerability in depth, to spend hours, days studying it. Also, they do not develop exploits by themselves usually, and they do not check all the deviations. So, besides that, they have to keep an IDS performance level high, so their signatures should not cause an IDS to spend really much time checking signatures, and they have to take care about false positive alerts. So taking into consideration this, we can point out some little tricks. For instance, you can just change an exploit and send HTTP arguments, HTTP GET arguments in another order, and that's why you can bypass some signatures. And you are right if you suppose that some signatures do rely on HTTP arguments order. Some others may rely on other HTTP fields, headers. Then sometimes you can just add a white space or any other factor in space where it is not supposed to be a mix of an HTML tag, for example. So this mostly comes from the fact that signatures are written to protect you from public exploits, mostly. So all these little tricks do not pretend on complete IDS evasion. So for the most dangerous vulnerabilities or malware attacks, there are a variety of quality signatures. So an attacker will likely not find any easy trick to bypass the signature of his checks. But in general, developing high-quality signatures require a wide range of skills from a developer. So probably there are lots of ways to change an exploit, a bit, and to await the detection. Especially it works for such complex protocols like and languages like HTML language or DNS protocol, which is hard enough for IDS system. So, as I told, signature developers have to keep IDS performance level high. So every signature they develop takes some resources to check. Of course, so the more signatures you have, the more CPU time they take to check the network traffic. And the rule of thumb I came across in a blog article dated in 2011 says to add 1 CPU every 1,000 of signatures or half a gigabit of network traffic. A rule of thumb. But signatures are not the same, and traffic is very different. So we can imagine a square where one side consists of fast and slow signatures, and another side consists of good and bad traffic. So what happens when slow signature meets bad traffic? Suricate IDS has performance profiling capabilities. If you run it long enough against your corporate traffic, you will collect a useful statistic. So here on the slide you see an example of performance log file. There are signature performance sorted by CPU ticks. And I've highlighted a group of signatures on the top. What is special for the signature is that this group takes much more CPU time than other signatures. So why does this happen? Exactly because a slow signature meets bad traffic. So we suppose that an exploitation scheme when we try to amplify this effect of slow signature within bad traffic. So we believe that these 3 little steps will help us to cause an IDS system with a denial of service state. And as we already have such a log file, we take 7 signatures from the top, for example, and there are 6 more signatures on the top, which are potentially more powerful in our experience. But I took this one only for the convenience. I will explain it on next slides. So what is a signature? This one protects you from a CE 2013, protects you from Ruby Rails YAML deserialization code execution. So it checks every network HTTP packet for free constant strings, type, YAML, and Ruby, and then applies a regular expression check against it. So, as we suppose this is a slow signature, we will try to construct a bad, especially craft bad traffic for the signature and see what happens. So I used run and see what happens approach for my experience. And the first content I tried is, not the first content, but a little background of my experience. By my experience, it takes you more resources, more time to prove there is no a match than to find any. So speaking about signature, IDS signatures, signatures should not find any match, any malicious activity in our traffic in order to take more CPU time in our experience. So for that, Suricata IDS was built in spatial performance monitor mode, which is disabled on a real IDS setup because it makes the system a bit slower. So it produces 2 log files. One of them you already saw on the previous slide, and the second one has it collects not the signature performance but signature keywords performance. So we can find there, for example, how much CPU time, CPU ticks, a regular expression check performed. So the first content I tried was just those 3 strings from a signature concatenated together and see which log file lines we can find. So you see there 3 content checks passed, but then a regular expression failed. So a regular expression, I have heard somewhere that regular expression takes much more CPU time to check than just a substring check search. So maybe this fact can help us. So in order to make use of regular expression, we have to reverse it back and find the string that this regular expression searches for. So it's a reverse operation, not build a regular expression, but build a string. And then, after we found the string, we will try to modify the string in a way to cause a regular expression engine to take as much CPU time as we can achieve. So, as far as I know, there is no automatic way to build such a string, neither a way to build a string nor to modify the string in order to take more CPU time. So all I found was a part of IDS, Suricata IDS performance testing scripts, and these scripts covered a measure regular expression keywords without supporting of such things as named capture groups or back references and so on. So I had to do it manually. But it wasn't so hard, so I found the smallest string that regular expression searched for, and the same principle here. If a regular expression cannot find the match there, it takes more steps, more CPU time to prove there is no match than to find any. And if we take the small string, it takes only 32 steps to find a match there. And if we remove the last character from it, it takes 57 steps to find there is no match, to prove it. So I used a useful tool, regex101.com, which shows me number of steps, so it was quite useful. So after poking around, I found some flutter there, so double string without the last character. The last character takes 200 steps to complete to find there is no match. 10 join strings takes about 10,000 steps to complete, and eventually 100 of join strings takes so many steps, so much time to complete. So it costs an online tool to check into catastrophic condition, timeout error. So let's check what we found, the content what we found against an IDS system. So you see that the content that on previous slide caused an online check tool into timeout error now generates on the hardly sensible log 1 million ticks, so nothing special. Maybe I did something wrong, I thought, but this is another story, because this story is about how I reached regular expression engine limits. So these limits are helping to an engine to protect from catastrophic regular expressions, catastrophic content, from catastrophic backtracking conditions. So these values set to small numbers works perfect. It protects from the conditions we found. Also, web application firewall systems whose check consists mainly of regular expression checks also have the same limits. You can find it there. Okay, I continued poking around. I tried double string, and see there it produces the following file. You see number of checks changed. It was 4 and became 7. So it's changed behavior actually, but I went deeper. We need to go deeper, and finally I achieved the following. So you see in total there are 3,000 checks, and I couldn't manage to achieve more. It seems that we found another limit here, and indeed Zurich IDS limits the number of checks by one signature on one packet. Default value is 3,000, and we see there a total 3,000 checks. But anyway, we got something. You see that now HTTP post body is so big, so regular expression takes more than 1.5 million ticks to complete. And if we multiply an average number of CPU ticks, if we multiply it on a regular expression checks number, about 1,500, we get more than 3 billion ticks. So this is a real 1,000-time amplification we achieved. So now you see how this HTTP packet may looks like. It's quite simple. One HTTP method, HTTP header, and a repeatable post body pattern. So this content is about 3,000 bytes long, and we cannot make it longer. We cannot make it infinitely long, because IDS system checks only a certain piece of TCP stream. But by default, it's about 3 kilobytes. And of course, we are limited by regular expression engines here, by IDS itself, so we cannot make it longer. But from another side, we can make this content a bit less without much effectiveness loss. So we got 3 billion ticks. Is it bad or good? So roughly speaking, 3 billion ticks is a second of an average CPU lag. So if I run an IDS, circuit IDS on a virtual machine, it takes about a second or two to start, to check that signature on a specially crafted batch traffic, and to finish. So 1 second, 1 second. And of course, we got strange behaviors there, because number of checks increased suddenly, and indeed it turned out that there is a flaw in circuit, another flaw. Circuit performs redundant checks, though it shouldn't. So that's why we achieve so many redundant checks on that content. So this CV number was assigned, and this issue is already fixed in both active circuit versions. So this trick with this CV number works only for that certain signature we chosen. So there are lots of other signatures that requires another approach, they consist of other checks combination, and they have, in order to exploit them, an intelligent attacker have to apply another approach. So this CV works only for that signature. Maybe some other, but not for all. So on which vector, we found a bad traffic, and on which vector this issue can be exploited. From this step, I highlight 2 approaches, based on a direction that signature checks, either packets going to the corporate server or to an external network, external server. So the signature we're talking about checks any HTTP packet going to a HTTP server in an internal IDS controlled server. So this one is quite simple because it doesn't require any interaction from user inside IDS network. Attacker can just sense packets and get an IDS system unresponsive to take the whole CPU time. So, in my experience, I used 8 out of 40 cores of Intel Xeon server, and this is quite common hardware for big corporate IDS systems that should be able to process hundreds of megabits or gigabits of network traffic. So the next question an attacker has is, okay, I have bad traffic, and how many of this traffic should I send in order to cause an IDS system unresponsive? So the next step, we'll find a border from which our attack is working as we expected. So in general, IDS system starts losing packets, dropping packets, even if CPU load is only 80%. So we found a border from which CPU starts consume 100% of it. And the border we found is about 200.5 of kilobits of network traffic. And speaking of HTTP packets, it is about, okay, something wrong with my presentation. Okay. And speaking of HTTP packets, it is about one HTTP post request per core per second. So 8 cores, 8 HTTP packets, and so on. So does it make it clear how powerful this authentication is? And it should be mentioned that I tested clear IDS setup, so no other traffic was there, and so usually in a real IDS setup there is some amount of network traffic, and CPU is usually loaded at least at 30%. So these values are going even down, so less than one packet, less than 200 kilobits. You see there, all 8 cores are 100% busy, and the 9 cores is occupied by TCP replay tool. So the more traffic I send, the less network packets an IDS system is able to process. So by sending more traffic, we can achieve a condition where we can send any exploits, we can use any hacking tools and not be caught by an IDS system. So, and another important point here is that this attack goes completely undetected by an IDS because it exploits only a signature, slow signatures, and there is no automatic way to alert if some signatures are taking too much CPU time because there is no mechanism. Profiling capabilities are disabled by default. That's why. And if IDS system works in prevention mode, IPS system, then this attack was even harder, even worse, because once we achieve such a denial of service condition, then IDS system goes to failover mode and it starts checking traffic at all. After this CVE was fixed, we tried again. We ran fresh certificate version again against our corporate traffic long enough, and we got the same picture, the same log, and the same group of signatures on the top. So, as I told, there are many other signatures we can't exploit except the CVE was found, except those signatures. And not the signatures are problem. They just require an extensive and a massive performance tuning, performance testing. So an attacker likely will be able to find another approach to craft the bad traffic and send it. So, but not the IDS is the only system that runs signatures. So many other systems, defensive systems, use signature-based detection, and probably the same approach can be applied for these systems also. But the important point here is that an attacker should be able to perform a preliminary analysis on an open rule set. So open rule set is a key. Without it, the attacker cannot understand which signatures are slow, which are fast. So we learned that signatures, the core of almost any defensive system, may be turned against the defensive system itself by an intelligent attacker, intelligent approach. And in spite of only a small number of signatures are slow, it affects the whole IDS system. So one signature causes the whole IDS system unresponsive. And again, keywords are the stealth method, an open rule set, and a complete IDS evasion. Thank you for watching.